my topic, what to talk is, it would ask all of us to revisit the caste hierarchy. For example, this caste hierarchy, I don't agree with this. I say this is wrong. So then this is, this hierarchy is about Brahmins on the top, these others are bottom. This is one mainstream argument, including Dalits, okay? So I do not agree with this argument. You will follow in my research, if you have in my presentation. Then the second one, this is also wrong, equality, equity. This is also wrong understanding. These all things I will be addressing in my research. So now, coming back to Žižek. See, Žižek said something. See, this is very interesting. In France, before going there, you don't read that. Žižek says, in YouTube video, he hasn't written a paper on this. He been traveling across Europe. And across Europe, he found something very unique. He found that toilet shitting was something very unique. See, we all had a good food, right? Vegetarian biryani, ghee, with ghee, people eating. Like that, even shitting also have different types of shitting, okay? You might think that just eating and shitting. No, that is what Žižek said. He found something very interesting across Europe. All the toilet commode was in different shapes. And he got something very interesting and asked architecture, calling him and asking that he's a philosopher. So he had many contacts, right? What time I should stop?
You have time of 2:35.
Yeah. So he asked all the architecture, he took the books of architecture to study why this toilet is constructed like this. No answer was there. That found him interesting. So therefore, he started analyzing it. So that's where he comes this philosophy. It's a very interesting one. He said, in France, the toilet basin has a hole in the back, so when you produce excrement, it quickly falls in the hole. The German toilet is the opposite. The hole is in the front, so when you produce excrement, they are displaced. A German ritual in the morning to inspect and sniff and analyze. The Anglo-Saxon way, the toilet is full of water, it flows before it disappears. Each of them standing for a certain level of social life and cultural politics. So this is where he says, if you want to study a culture, you have to look to the place where you never ever imagined to look. So that is where he says, look into your toilet. You will know what is your culture in it. So therefore he says, German metaphysics. You shit, you analyze, you sniff, you find. That's a German ritual to see whether you have a disease. So they floated, the morning they do that. And there is a poetry also conservative. And he says, France is a revolutionary. You just flush it, flush it goes away. Approach, then liquidated. Anglo-Saxon pragmatic. It comes, it floats, and then it goes away. So this is one thing which triggered me to study whether something is there in Indian toilet. And I was studying in Indian Institute of Advanced Study, a British architect there. And it amazed me, it blown me that architecture in India, toilet, my argument from this where I take, architect in India, toilet toilet architecture itself is a cultural output, Indian cultural output. For an example, they construct outside the house or no toilet. So mostly they go for open defecation. So it's a footnote, okay? Footnote is, most often we all say that sanitation workers, you use gloves, mask, everything. But none of our asses are cleaned by gloves, right? We all have to use your bare hand. And you know the history? When Indians, many people died because of diarrhea. You know why? Wiping on your own hand and washing. Then these guys many Indians come and say that you wear a mask and you wear glove. So that is hypocrite, I mean. That's a footnote, okay? So therefore, this toilet was significant for me. Then I saw architect British. Okay, let us leave British. Then I come to my childhood experience of schools. In my school, boys' high school, there was no toilets. There were only 2 toilets for teachers, that are women faculty and men faculty, 2 toilets. There won't be a water in it, and for students there was no toilet. Break time we used to go and urinate outside. So there was no toilet, and then you go and study the books, and there was a pill file. There have been many women literature said schools do not have toilets, and many women dropped out of the schools because there was no toilet. So toilet were never part of the imagined mind. Then interestingly, then I studied this Indian village structures. For example, the government village structure. You know, government, if they wants to give some 100 houses, they have a formality. What are the formality? The houses will be there. They'll give a space for build to temple, and probably water body and houses. That's it. No public toilets. So therefore, the government and earlier houses, like for the government built houses in 1940s, 50s, 60s for sanitation workers, government quarters, nowhere there were toilets. So for the government quarters, which are higher officials, toilets were built outside the house. So therefore, you have to go outside the house. So these things were always there. So therefore, there was this problem of space and toilet was very unique to India. That was my argument. So now I found, okay, this is one thing simply I can leave and move forward. Then there came a big debate in social science, especially in EPW. There was this great millennium. There was a book. The book was written. I'm forgetting his name. I'll give you his name. So he writes a book and he says that he's a novelist. He's Nepal. Okay, Nepal writes a book. In that book, he says Indians shit all over the place. So then he writes. So immediately all the Indian social scientists get very angry, agitated. They write article after article in EPW to defend that this is a glorious culture. You do not know. You are a Western. That is where the Eurocentralism argument comes. So there is a Dipankar Chakravarti brings that argument. Before going into that, this toilet, what I said. So let us look into the past theologically how toilet has been seen. So this is one open defecation. How they were romanticizing the caste Hindus. Okay, somebody was saying upper caste, right? I say caste Hindus, not upper caste. Nobody is upper, nobody is lower. That's where I say it is not that I was born as a Hindu. No, I was never born as a Hindu. I was born as a child for my mother. The society gave me a brand. So therefore, I don't have anybody. Even if I change anything, that is the society has to change. That's why society never changes. So anyway, in UP, 2 Dalit girls were raped. So there was this sociologist, I suppose, from TIS. She writes that, see, going to the fields provides women with the space to chat and hang out among themselves. She further illustrated the need to discuss, debate, engage. So she says that basically her argument of hers was, there were many people arguing that same tone. They say women going outside to shit in open defecation, it was revolutionary because that is the only space women can speak. The morning they'll speak, they'll go and shit. So that is what they found. So the women, I'll be very open. I'm very open to debate. Women could have argued some other place, not asking that this is the only place. If she says that women can only speak there, the problem is not there. The problem should be elsewhere. You cannot come and justify women going outside for toilet, because women going outside toilet, I don't know how many people's mother and father and sisters went outside toilets. So, in our houses, we go to women, most of our women go for open defecation outside. 5 o'clock they should go, or 9 o'clock, daytime they can't even go. And 5 o'clock they go, they have to wait whether men are sitting and torturing and torching and watching and security, privacy. This is not upper caste, okay? Dalit women have been raped even for going outside for defecation. So it is not the case for public is not always the same. So that is one thing. So Sumita Kaviraj, what he says is, public urination is disobedient act, he says. Men urinating in public. That is a hypocrite argument, because I say men is a privileged position to urinate anywhere, because it's a patriarchal society where men can urinate anywhere. So therefore, that is not an argument. So this is the problem of women toilets and the rules of pollution. This is the philosophical work, how they see. See, the Mary Douglas is one of the pioneer work which Mary Douglas on purity and danger. She writes that, basic thing is, now you should understand one concept. Now, toilet is a problem. In India, caste system is a problem. Let us not go there. Here, what they argue is, see, waste is considered everywhere waste in India, across the globe. The problem in India is, you are not cleaning your own body. The scavengers are not keeping clean. If they keep clean, if you do it very professionally, so-called professionally, then everybody will be treated equally. That is the argument, valorizing the argument of the work. So another argument they would say, see, you are doing a great job. In their opinion, or in my opinion, I would say, even the Brahmins' work and the caste works of all 5 castes is an enforced work, I would say. Because one work might be a good, another work may not be a good. But caste labor is a caste labor. So Brahmins love that priestly work, scavengers do not like that work. But everything is a caste work. So therefore, they started valorizing it. This is the same valorization, Gandhi said that. So what did Gandhi say is, Gandhi says that the scavenging children, that's Harijan, children of God, this is Nepal. And Chakrabarti writes and André Béteille writes. So this, I'm coming to the modern thing. And Veena Das also writes the same thing about toilet and architecture, toilet, especially shitting habit and the manual scavengers. So coming to the new point, Nepal's argument that Indian defecates, Chakrabarti argues that he says you have to look India from a modern perspective, not from the Western perspective. Modern perspective is Indians throw garbage anywhere, wherever they want to they throw, but that is the way they behave. You have to understand them not as a backward, but you have to understand them go to an Indian marketplace. The marketplace is disorganized for you, but it is organized for us. That is the argument he brings. Then he says, for example, in India, in a house, you take a garbage and you put it outside. Morning, one person comes, he collects and goes. So that is the one argument he keeps. Then this Chakrabarti and Subita Kaviraj earlier argument. So this argument, how I argue is, now I come to an argument of bringing them. Even André Béteille's caste, class and power. In caste, class and power, André Béteille clearly says he is researching the Brahmin community, interacting with the OBC community. And he clearly says, when the Brahmin moved out of the house, OBCs entered the house. He clearly says in that book that Dalits are not allowed into that house. Okay, let us keep that. That is a pioneer book, they say, also landmark book in caste. But interestingly, André Béteille forgot one space in the Agrahara architecture. Yeah, okay. So Agrahara architecture. So here I argue the space what I was telling outside and the inside. The toilet as an outside. Either whether toilet is there, if you build toilet, it is outside here. You know, Indian Swachh Bharat campaign, toilet was asked to build outside the house. So it is outside. So interestingly what I argue, Sudipta Kaviraj, why did you off my mic? Okay, no, just kidding, Mopla. It's okay. So, and you'll minus my point also. So Sudipta Kaviraj's house, what he says that Chakrabarti says that in India there is a one space where people come and throw the garbage. So this is one space he says. But interestingly, that is not the case. In India, there is another space which has been unnoticed, the space behind the door. All the houses have behind the door. And this behind the door was exclusively built for the manual scavengers who to come and take the manual scavenging, that is the dry littings. So you should know that Indian government approved manual scavenging as a scavenging tax until 1990s. In Tamil Nadu, they were collecting scavenging tax just to go and collect the dry littings. So one thing you remember, Gandhi's idea of toilet. See, Gandhi was one person who opposed the idea of modernization, but sadly he was the person also opposed the toilet becoming modernization. He promoted everybody to clean and shit. But my argument is, it is Gandhi who promoted manual scavenging in India. So that is one. So I have 3 minutes. So one argument. So one point is, Agrahara is the main structure here. So toilet is built out and outside. So now I take, where does this toilet being built outside the house comes from? I go to the root of Hinduism, Agrahara architecture, which André Béteille taught. In Agrahara, the toilet were constructed outside the house. And then in temples, there were no toilets. Do you know there is no temple in toilets? Toilets are not allowed in temple, and Dalits are not allowed in temple. Okay, so the spaces, the spatial location of Dalits and the toilet were always considered outside. So here, the untouchability of notion of being outside and inside, or the oppressor and oppressive, or the caste notion is not hierarchical. It is reproduced by the structure of toilet. So one example I'll give you and I'll stop. In discussion I'll explain. See, you know this, in Tamil Nadu there was one murder case on Swami. There is Shankaramat. Kanchi Shankaramat, there was a murder. And they came to arrest him. Saturday, the first time in history of High Court, on Saturday, Ramjit Malani comes to take a bail. And that time Chief Minister was Jayalalitha, none other than Jayalalitha. She knows how to handle. You know, interesting, she filed a petition. Ramjit Malani's argument was in the court that this is a temple. It's where he lives, Swami lives, it's a temple. Government should not interfere. The opposite argument was, no, it is not temple, because in temple you don't have toilets. In Shankaramat you have toilets. So therefore it cannot be considered as a temple. So toilet has been very, very crucial for Hindu architecture. So now, I don't go for Hinduism. If you ask me where caste came out, I would say the emergence of the architecture you find. So one last point is about the Britishers, I would like to say. See, when people say that Britishers, last point I will leave. People say that Britishers came and they supported the caste system, right? I'll give you some evidence. You go to British architecture, Indian stuff, advanced study, the building or build, or here also you can go anywhere with British architecture. The British architecture is unique to India. The reason is the toilet has been constructed the space away from the main place. Even if the toilet is constructed in the palace or in the main hall, the access to the toilet for the sweepers will be round stairs. In India, anywhere you find the round circle stairs, it's exclusively built for the scavengers. And this is not, I'm saying, some abrupt from some utopian idea. No, it is a blueprint of the architecture of Britishers. But the same Britishers who built architect in abroad never built the toilet as separate. Here they built toilet adjacent toilet entrance. The sweeper's entrance was separate, and the main entrance, servant's entrance was separate. So here the classification of sweepers and servants were mainly there. So therefore I argue Britishers incorporated that. So at last I would say the caste system is not about five architecture. It is a notion about who cleans, who not cleans, who's a pure, who's not a pure. And this idea is not about exclusivity of one community. For example, Brahmin thinking that no, I am a Brahmin, he's a Chaklier. No, Chaklier thinking that no, I am a Chaklier. He's no. Even Chaklier building house, outside the house, not building the toilet, because he agrees that kind of a philosophy of purity pollution, he also subscribes to it. So therefore, this is how the caste is reproduced, not by the five architecture, I would argue. So last point is, in India, that's all my plan. The last point is, in India, the spatial location of toilet and the human being educating that space only has a meaning. For an example, my body, I cannot walk in a main village. So that village is a public space until and unless I walk into that space. When Dalits walk, they attack. So therefore, the space and the body is something very crucially forgotten, had not paid much attention in anti-caste theories. So therefore, I rest my argument here. I'll wait for the other presentation and question answer sessions. Thank you, brother.